Okay, so in this video what we're going to do is we're going to install the Samba as an Active Directory domain controller, ADDC. So this is basically going to take our server from a, I don't know, maybe a Kevin Hart kind of a server to a Dwayne Johnson, The Rock kind of a server. So right now the server's not doing much. So what we're going to do is get connected and jump right in. You can see I've got a list of all of our steps right here. We're just going to follow along with these steps and let's hope for the best. So let's first of all connect to our server, and we're going to do SSH test for the username at 10.0.0.10. There we go. Our super simple password. Okay, so now we're logged in, and the first thing we need to do is we need to get our software downloaded, and then we'll go ahead and do the install. The reason we're going to get the software installed now is we have another step to do in just a minute where we're actually going to break DNS. So we can't find locations on the internet, because what's happening is right now the server is using itself as a DNS server, but it's not Active Directory integrated. And we need to break that to rebuild it as Active Directory integrated DNS, and we'll go from there. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to make ourselves a super user with the sudo command, sudo su. And that means we're going to constantly run as a super user. You can see now we have the pound or hash symbol there, hashtag. So let's go ahead and grab all of this software right here with the command, and we're going to copy that, and we'll paste that in here. And now we're just going to hang on. This is going to take just a minute to install that software. Now, once we're done with this, we're not actually going to do anything with the software. We're just going to put in anything we need to right here. We're going to put in ad.startupcompany.com. It's not really going to matter because we're going to overwrite this. And Samba is going to be the name of our server. Administrative server, Samba. Good to go. So let that run. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to actually disable DNS in just a minute and then rebuild it as an Active Directory integrated DNS. So the next step is going to be to disable resolve-conf right here. And we're going to disable it here and then actually stop it with the second line. And then we'll move on with the rest of the install. Okay, and that was pretty quick. So we've got that installed, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to disable the resolve conf. So we're going to copy this line, and then we'll copy the second one here. Copy, paste, and then we'll copy and paste the next one, and we'll do a test to make sure we've broken something. And paste. And so now we're just going to go ahead and try to ping yahoo.com. Excellent. Well, that's not normally a good thing, but in this installation, yeah, that's good. So now we're going to go ahead and verify that we don't have any Samba services running, and we'll do that with this line because we want to make sure that we're starting out from scratch, nothing in there. And we do. So let's go ahead and kill all these Samba services. We're going to kill, let's see, 4280. Let's kill 4297. We're going to start getting the process isn't running in a second here. Kill 4300. There we go. 4301. That means all the rest of these have already died. 4302. 4472. 4487. Are you dead? All right. So good. We're good to go. And now we're going to edit our host file right here. So we'll just edit hosts, and that's going to be nano se hosts. You see we've got nothing going on here. We need to add 10.0.0.10, the address of ourselves. I'm going to take out that second line in just a moment, and that's going to be samba.ad.startupcompany.com and Samba by itself, just a plain host name. We're going to go back here, take this line out. We do not want to be able to ping what's called that loopback. The loopback address is the 127.0.0.1. We don't want that. So now we'll save that with Control O, yes, and Control X to exit. So now we should be able to ping Samba, and it should come back with 10.0.0.10. Excellent. Now the reason that worked is we're not using DNS, we're using the host file for name resolution. So we're good to go. So we've got this line done. Let's make sure the Samba conf file doesn't have anything in it, but I bet we will. Yep, so let's go ahead and delete that file. We're going to do rm etsy samba smb.conf. We're going to generate our own new conf file in just a minute. So we've removed our file. And now let's look for all of our database files. And we're going to delete all those because we want to get rid of any traces of Samba, a previous installation anyways. So now we need to start getting rid of these. So we're going to do rm/run. Actually, let's go ahead and let's go into each one of these directories. Let's cd run Samba, and we're going to look for anything that is LDB, nothing, and TDB. Let's get rid of those TDBs also. So rm*.tdb. Okay, so now let's go to our next varlib Samba, and let's remove anything LDB. And everything TDB. Gone. So we got two more directories to hit. Var cache Samba. So let's cd into that. Var cache Samba. And remove anything here. TDB and LDB. Gone. And our last one is varlib Samba private. Varlib Samba private, and remove everything LDB. Nope. LDB, we're off there. All right. RM everything TDB. Okay, so now we're done with that. We've got one more file we need to delete because we're going to regenerate this one as well. So the file we're going to delete is in the Etsy folder, and we're going to do rm etsy Kerberos 5 configuration file, KRB5. Gone. So that's all the pretty tricky stuff. Now we're going to do the install. Let's see here. There it is. Interactive. So let's grab that. And the interactive means that we're going to be answering each one of its questions as we run. The RFC 2307 just means we're going to add in some extra features that not required, but definitely helpful to have, and they're going to help us out in the future. We're not going to have to run this tool all over again in the future. So we're going to copy that and paste. So now we're going to be asking for some questions or some information that we're going to need to know for our Active Directory. And the realm is already set up correctly. It's going to be ad.startupcompany.com. And that is basically the entire domain is going to consist underneath that. So we're going to go ahead and press enter because anything in those brackets, that's the default, and that's good. You would definitely want to put that in there if you don't have that. The domain, AD, you can definitely leave that one alone also. That's the correct answer. Now the server role. We have three different methods of installing this. We can be the standalone, which means we're going to be just aware of the domain. The member means we're actually going to belong to the domain, but not participating in maintaining a copy. And then you've got DC, and that's domain controller. And that's really what we want. Because what we want to do is we want to maintain, and this is going to be our very first server for our domain. We'll install a second one later. But we want to make sure that we've got all of the lists of users and their permissions and the groups and all of that information, their passwords, all that information is going to be stored on this server. So DC is definitely what we want. We're going to go ahead with domain controller. And DNS backend. We've got several options. Not going to go into it too big, but the Samba internal is what we want. That's going to make sure that the server knows everything going on inside Active Directory. All the host names, all the various records that need to be done. The downside to this is this DNS server, by being Samba internal for the type, it's not going to know how to do anything other than what's in Active Directory. So when we're all done, this is going to ask us in a moment for a forwarder. And so what's going to happen is when we're done, we're going to be able to ping something in ad.startupcompany.com. And that's going to work fine. But if we try to ping yahoo.com, it wouldn't work. It doesn't know anything outside of this. So what this server is going to ask us in a second is for the forwarding DNS server. And that's going to be the servers that says, hey, if I don't know about it in Active Directory, what other domains DNS server do I use to find other .coms or .govs or .edus? So we're going to leave this as Samba internal. Go ahead and press enter. So again, it's the right one. Here's the DNS forwarder IP address. This is the one I'm telling you about. Now, in our case, we've already set up a pfSense firewall server, and that is 10.0.0.1. That's the address we're going to use for here, so that anytime this server needs to get out to the internet or to help other people get out to the internet, that's going to be the address it uses to find out where yahoo.com is. So we're going to type in 10.0.0.10, for the pfSense firewall, and that's going to be good. Now here, we're establishing what the Active Directory password is for the administrator account. When we create Active Directory, you've got one user account, administrator. In Linux, it's root. In Windows and Active Directory, it's administrator. So we want to go ahead and set up the password here. And I'm going to choose password again. And we are setting up Active Directory. So we're just going to hang out. And I want to point out something. Before we start clicking around, I want you to take a note of something that it really doesn't jump out at you when it's done here. But it's creating Active Directory right now. But one of the things that this has done is created a file for you. Okay, there it is actually. Doesn't really jump out at you at all. This Kerberos 5, write that down. I'm also going to have a link to it. I've got it in the notes over here. So this, you're going to need this in just a moment. And I just wanted to point out that it's kind of hidden in there. You definitely need that. I wish the instructions made that a little bit more pronounced. But hey, I'll be the learning experience for you guys, and we'll go from there. So now that we've got our domain provisioned, we need to copy that file. And you notice in the instructions here, I've already got that file set up. So we're just going to go ahead and copy that to the correct location. We're just going to copy right there. And so that step is done. Now what we need to do is, there's some services that Samba needs, but right now they're automatically starting up on their own. And we need to make sure they don't start up on their own, because when we make our own Samba service in just a minute, we're going to make sure that Samba starts those up as it needs to. We don't want them already started because they're not going to start up properly and Active Directory won't work properly. So one of the things we're going to do is now we're going to kill off these services. So let's go ahead and run these two commands. And that's going to kill those services so they don't start up on their own anymore. That one's done. And now we're going to start up this other command and paste. And so now what it's doing is disabling those services. So SMB, the NMB, and the WinBind, They're just things that are required by Active Directory, but they need to start up in the right order. So once that's done, now what we need to do is there's already a service called Samba ADDC service, but it's just a symbolic link. So what we need to do is actually get rid of that and recreate our own with all the correct information in it. So we're going to remove that file with this command. We'll copy that, paste that in here. That's gone. So now we need to run nano. Nano is the editor, text editor, and we're going to create this service file. So we're going to go ahead and copy that and fire off nano, paste. There we are. Now we're in our text editor. We need to go ahead and get all of this information in between these lines. We'll copy that in and create our service. So we'll copy that and we'll paste that. And so what we're seeing in this file is we're creating a service, and the name of it's just the friendly name is going to be Active Directory Domain Controller. And the after command, this after command says, hey, after network is started, after the remote file service is started, and NSS lookup is started, then we can start with our service. The type forking means it's going to actually fire up other services as it needs to, because remember, we need the SMB and the NMB and the WinBind to start up. No big deal. This is the actual command of what we're going to be starting up, and it's user sbin samba. The Samba PID, the PID file, that's just going to help Samba say, okay, when I fire it up, I'm going to keep track of whatever process ID it is, the 4500 or 13,000, so that I don't assign that PID to other processes. It's just a helping thing. Exec reload just means, hey, these are some special commands. If we ever need to reload that service, this is the stuff we're going to do. No big deal. And the install wanted by just says, hey, under what mode of server operation is this service going to start up? Now, multi-user target is just the standard method. Unless you do something special when it boots up and give it an option, it's going to boot up into multi-user. So this basically says, under normal circumstances, start this service up. So we've got this service created. Well, not created yet, but the text file's there. We're going to write that out. We're going to do Control-O and hit Enter, and it's done. And now get out of it with Control-X. And oops, I hit Enter there. Save modified buffer? Nah, it's just an extra carriage return. So now we've got that started up, and we need to tell the server to re-examine all the services that we have. And that's what we do with this command. Otherwise, it wouldn't know that that service file is there. So it's basically we're going to copy this and paste it. And what that does is reload all the service files that we have out there, including the one we just put out there. Then we're going to go ahead and enable that service. The service is there, but we need to make sure it's enabled so it can start up. We're going to copy this one here. We're going to paste that into our window and our server. And now we're done. So let's go ahead and we're going to reboot this server. And I'm going to do the command reboot. And we're going to wait for a minute. I'm watching the server restart in another window. And when I know that that's up and running, we're going to go ahead and we'll do SSH test at 10.0.0.10 one more time. And we're going to do a test or two to make sure that our Active Directory server is working the way we want it to. We're going to do kinit. And we're going to do a list with SMB client. So just one more minute here, and it looks like the server's up and running. So we can connect now. Again, password. And so we're up and running. Now what we want to do is kinit administrator. Oops, administrator. And the password that we set up for Active Directory. So let's try SMB client. We just want to see if the files are out there. SMB client -L, uppercase L, localhost, and N. So we know Samba's up and running because we have all of our files right here. We can see all of our shares. The SMB1 disabled is actually a good thing. There's various versions of communicating over the network, and SMB1 was the very first version. It came out with Windows, I think, 3.1 or Windows 95. It's really old, really outdated, and really insecure. That's how a lot of viruses get through, and SMB1 is not good. SMB2 is the current. SMB3, definitely good, but SMB1 disabled, it's not an error message. It's actually good. What you want to see is SMB1 disabled. So we're done with this. Now what we need to do is move on. Right now, we have our DHCP server is handing out addresses along with DNS. So what we need to do is change DNS to now point to this server. So this server is now going to be responsible for everything that gets out to the internet and Active Directory all in one fell swoop. So let's go ahead and go to the command or go to the web GUI for our DHCP server, which is our pfSense firewall. We'll see what we mean here in a second. 10.0.0.1. And we're going to choose administrator. Sign in. Admin. Now we're going to go to services and DHCP server. And what we're going to do in the DNS servers, we're going to point to our Active Directory server that we just built, and that is 10.0.0.10. And we're going to save that all the way at the bottom and save. So we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and close this. We'll reboot the server and we'll be right back in just a minute. Okay guys, so we're back. Took a minute to restart the workstation. So the workstation's up and running, and now it should have a new IP, or not a new IP address, but it should have the updated DNS information. The reason we did that is we want to make sure that we can connect to the internet, and we can also ping Samba and ping the new Active Directory. So what we're going to do is we're first going to check Active Directory. Let's go ahead and ping Samba. And it's working. We're getting a reply. In fact, let's make this a little bit wider. There we go. So we can see that we're pinging samba.ad.startupcompany.com, and it's coming back to the correct address. So that's good. And now let's go ahead and make sure we can ping Yahoo. Make sure both are working. If that works, we're done. So ping www.yahoo, oops, 2 O's in yahoo.com. And there we go. I didn't make this wide enough. There we go. So we're done with this video. We've just done a pretty cool thing. We went from Kevin Hart to Dwayne Johnson. We've now got our own Active Directory domain controller up and running. No licensing fees. This thing just works forever now. That's about it for the video, and we'll talk to you in the next one.